and welcome to the latest episode of Power Spike. We are fresh off of the LCK wrapping up. It is late for me, a midnight record time, but no worries, because Jamada and Yamada are here to break down the biggest news in one of the slower weeks of the whole esports, but the only place to do it is here on Power Spike. Big news out of the LCK, multiple things out of the LCK actually, but we start there. Not the only place that had a road show in France. T1 also had their road show. It was the T1 Home Ground, the LCK Road Show, where the big news wasn't the slapping of the bros and B&K FearX, but Keria re-signing for T1, pairing the greatest org in League of Legends history with the greatest support to do it for another 3 years, following the path of Faker, and now having multiple players in place through 2029. And it's the pairing of the best continuing on. I find it solid, exciting, a little curious in case things go wrong, because they have gone so right over the last 3 years, and locking down another 3 years is a big commitment. But nevertheless, T1 and Keria do it in style. They baited the audience with a thank you, Keria, for being with us, and, you know, like a thank you, almost like a goodbye debate. And all the gasps from all the fans inside Inspire Arena was awesome. I was actually in the booth with Joe Marsh, who knew what was happening. I was like, this is crazy. He was like, this wasn't just my idea. I'll leave it at that. And then out comes Keria. He's in the center of the arena because it went black, like just dark, at the end of the video.
Yeah,
yes, and there he was. Has the
just
pen,
missing the bell. Just literally just missing the bell.
It was awesome. It was awesome. So they do it with great fanfare, but the best sign with the best for another 3 years. Yamato, what do you make of it?
Honestly, I think that this has pretty much secured T1's competitive future for the next 3 years. Because not only is Keria just the best super in the world, easily, if you just are making a team, that's where you start in the super position. It's also the fact that when it comes to Keria being an off-season piece and attracting other talent, in other positions, I can think of even just competitively. I'm not talking about the level of grandeur that Faker has as a go. I'm talking competitively. For all the other roles, you can definitely find 3 players that could belong, whether it's AD with Ruler and Viper and Gumiushi, or mid lane with now Chovy or BDD, or top lane with Keen and Zeus and so forth. You can find names in the other positions, but if you don't have Keria, who do you replace him with? It's like Duro and Delight, they've been good at times, but it doesn't carry the same level of impact and influence over the game, especially when obviously Faker is at a point in his career where obviously like we can easily track when he's going to perform good and when he's going to perform worse. Plain and simple. But he's allowed to do that because he's the GOAT of the game, no problem. Like always, it's like the spring split and the summer split. Those are like the windows where Faker's underperforming the most. We've seen that for the last couple of years. And then it's like Worlds, ramp up, beginning of winter, he's there again because he took a break. Well, technically, he got maybe a week off in December, So that synergy as well is also super important, because Faker doesn't get to go to those big tournaments if he doesn't have the players like Keria around him to actually get him to those tournaments and to get him over those humps. And also, they work together super well in-game in terms of what they contribute. So I think separating that would be such a massive pain point, because I think if they lost Keria, they would lose against Keria. And with that said, I think that just plain and simple, it just secures the competitive future. I think it's a win-win too. I hope Keria has the biggest bag of all time, because he signed in the middle of the season. Like, they're not going to make the Zeus mistake ever again, They signed in the middle of the season. I think it's a gangster move from T1. Fair play to them. They deserve props for this, to do it. And then for 9 years, 2029 is a very, very big deal. But I think they will save money on this in the long run, because all the other players will also come cheaper, because people who want to play with Keria from a strict competitive sense. So there's that. I think this is the biggest move they could have done.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that's already happened with Pays, right? Pays is already re-signing and locked in with the squad. The only player not re-signed through that 2029 timeframe is Doran, who is signed through the end of the year. But you know who else is a top laner who's only re-signed through the end of the year? Is Zeus. That's right.
Wow.
Esports.
Wow.
They have him through 2026, not 2027. Guma, by the way, is through 2027. Jamada, what did you make of the signing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what Yamato is saying, right? This is how you build a franchise at the end of the day. This is how you know, maintain a recognizable brand, and it's something that so many other teams around the world have struggled at multiple different levels. And obviously each league, each region has its own ecosystem and set of hurdles that they have to hop over for that to be a consistent thing that they can maintain. But in the case of T1, they've got it on lock, right? And like you say, it's pretty much just Doran. Doran is like the only guy who is not long-term signed right now. From a business standpoint, it just makes sense. From also just a focusing on trying to secure more titles standpoint, it makes sense too, right? If you lose Keria, who comes in and like fills those shoes to anywhere, even 50% of that capacity, almost 60% of that capacity, just operating standard? It's nigh impossible. So Keria just too important a piece to lock in. And even if it comes to, let's say some of these players weren't, as long-term signed, right? Like Pays isn't as long-term signed, Owner isn't as long time signed. If you have to do rebuilds, support is connected with effectively 3 of the other 5 roles just directly with how the game is played a lot of the time. Obviously, Faker's not going anywhere, but for any potential jungle prospects, for any Keria is always just churning out these ADC talents. If that's what you need to do, the allure of having Keria there is just such a big deal to always just getting the signings that you want. So hard really to say anything but give more praise to T1 for not following up on that mistake that they kind of ended up having go down with Zeus. And I think, the cherry on top would actually just be if somehow this turns into a Zeus eventually returns and we get, basically this whole roster run back with minus Gruber. Just because that is, the way that the world works sometimes is very funny with off-season moves.
Yeah. And one thing that we've hammered home on this show, on Let's Cover Korea, myself and Wolf, and on the LCK just in general, you could just look at DNS. There is a lack of support talent coming up the pipeline right now. Eyes on Career to see how he's doing. Me as the bro fan, Namgung.
Shout out to Ghost,
another young talent.
Shout out to Ghost.
Yeah, you're trying to like flex Ghost over at KT.
Yeah,
President Palu.
Come on, quantum physics.
So compare all of those guys, and then there's Keria. 3 more years, or 3.5 more years there with the squad, just locking that one down. And I know we said Doran isn't the one that's re-signed, and unfortunately right now he has been the worst performing player on the squad, being solo killed multiple times, kind of having some international Doran moments domestically. So the pressure's on for him to kind of lock it in and reprove his point, because T1 is more than willing to reward players when they are due. Due up now is the breaking news that happened on, I think it was Tuesday, so literally yesterday. The trade out of nowhere. I just saw this guy perform not well, but have like a pretty big int moment against T1. It was being FearX Diable. Being cited of having some lack of professionalism, didn't show up for a fan meet, didn't show remorse afterwards, and put on the trading block. Rumors were flying everywhere, myself included, pushing some of those. There was a proposed trade that was going to happen that was then blocked by his parents because he's a minor. This story has it all. It's this week's fraud alert. Diable traded to Nongshim. Let's get into it. So the star AD carry of B&K FearX, and at one point, the heir apparent to being the next great, maybe AD carry for Gen.G, at times for T1, it was Diable, who is stuck together with this B&K FearX roster. It was probably the biggest move of the offseason for an LCK team. They kept the team together, more importantly, kept Diable on the roster. They make it to first stand. They then struggle there. They struggle on the return back. He's and Kellen start playing worse, and it felt weird because Vikla and Daystar were getting subbed out. Raptor was also struggling a bit too, but their play was worse in situations where they had the opportunity to win. And then this news comes out on Tuesday that he's on the trading block, and in the LCK, you can't play if you're traded within that round. The round starts on Thursday. So the trade had to be made within 24 hours. There were multiple suitors, most notably the DN Automotive Supers were apparently attached to the trade. Since then, Odin, the head coach of DN Supers, came out and made a statement on Soup, their streaming platform, saying that they never were interested in it and that they were moving forward with dGon. They were not happy with the results, but the progress was clear, and they were going to show it tomorrow in their match against Hanj and Brion. And then apparently the trade was going to go through, as I said earlier, in Korea. A trade has to be approved by the parents if they're a minor, and B&K were going to send him on over to DNS. The parents said no. So then that left very little time left to make this trade and still get a player back to use for round 2, both for Diable to be able to play and B&K FearX to have on the top side, or for their number 1 squad. They end up making the move with Taeyoon and Nongshim. So fraud alert can go multiple different ways, gentlemen. You can decide whether it's fraudulent for B&K FearX to make the trade. You could say it's fraudulent that the DN Automotive Supers weren't interested. You could say it's fraudulent that Diable is absolved by some of these things. I'm going to let you guys decide where you feel like the fraudulency is, because this all was in-season drama that happened very, very fast. So I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I missed in terms of the coverage of it? Oh, in today's matches, because we're recording on Wednesday, the trade wasn't official, so we couldn't say it on the broadcast, or we didn't say it on the broadcast. We said that Diable was benched. In comes in Slayer for his LCK debut after 3, almost 4 years of working his way on through the academy system. And he was okay. Like, they played a Lucian Milio comp. He was supposed to be the guy, wasn't really the guy, fell late game. And then he played Ezreal and felt like he was playing to not make mistakes. So I don't think that's your solution. And so now in the next match later this week, both Diable and Taeyoon will be eligible to play for their new teams because the trade was confirmed by LCK on round 1, which ends tomorrow. So all the context there, Jamada, where do you go in terms of fraudulency, and where do you put it in terms of the scale here?
I think the whole thing is just rancid. The whole thing is just proper fraudulent. Diable, you outlined it very well, so I'm trying to pick off the meat on the bone that makes sense for me. This guy was being looked at by the best of the best in the LCK in between Winter and Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
How are we getting rid of him when we've just come off of an international for the first time? Seemingly, now, like, this is the thing, because obviously the team has been struggling since the return to the LCK. It's always very difficult to kind of get a gauge for what kind of discourse is going on inside of a team, unless the team is being very open about it and very, very public, which, to my knowledge, has not really been the case. But Diable has not really been doing, like, yes, moments here and there where it's been bad, like in the T1 game, but all in all, he's kind of just a bit of a passenger and a victim of the rest of the poor play, for me at least, from BFX. So to see him get traded to Nongshim just feels very bizarre, and like off the back of seemingly missed the fan meet. Yes, this is a contractual obligation. And I also want to make this clear because there was a lot of people kind of downplaying this. If you are contracted to do something, you do it. Like, you've signed the contract. Whatever's inside the contract, you are obligated to show up and deliver that term. He didn't show up to the fan meet. If something else was going on, and maybe they didn't have grounds to actually take some form of action, that is grounds to take action at the end of the day. And so they did that. And because of the nature of the ruling of needing to have the deadline being at round 2 start, that's really where the whiplash comes in for Taeyun. of all players who Taeyun's a weird one, because Taeyun has been so up down even since his return from the LPL. He's not exactly the kind of guy to me who screams, let's replace a potential generational AD carry with this guy, right? So I don't know. I really don't know what to say other than this whole thing is just very, very odd, very, very bizarre. If I'm the BFX GM, or if I'm like the guy above the BFX GM, I'm looking at you going, well, did he tell your mother to like go fuck themselves, or like what horrible thing went down for Diable to get traded mid-season like this under these circumstances? It's just strange, and I don't see Taeyun being some kind of magical band-aid to the systematic issues BFX are facing, because the issues that BFX are facing, to me, don't have a lot to do with Diable. So I don't know. It's strange. And like Super's saying they would keep Duckdarm over potentially Diable. Like, I can respect the loyalty to a player, but you're a business. Like, fix up is my reaction to that. So yeah, strange, especially for the LCK. I think that's what to me is kind of sticks out. I could see this happening in the LPL. I could see this happening in hell, maybe even the LEC, to be honest with you. But to get a mid-split swap like this, when Diable was the guy that brought you to your international in winter, he was the big weightlifter. Strange, super, super strange, and I just can't fathom the logic behind that decision. Again, unless he is just some like disastrous monster behind the scenes who's really just taking over, he's just, like, preventing rather progress from happening.
Sure. And that's where I want to go to you, Yamato. You've dealt with some of the biggest personalities, and as a coach, you deal with massive clashes. What creates a situation like this where he just played on Sunday against T1, and then you've got almost maybe 36, if you're generous, 24 hours to move him like that, and you make the move on a whim like that?
Oh, it's a very bizarre situation, honestly. Like, it's very bizarre. I think it just seems like BFX lost control completely over their team. We have some hints and nuggets, right? They mentioned the fan meets, but they also mentioned something where Bikla was benched due to basically Diable. That's what was implied, I feel like, in one of the BFX statements, where if we were supposed to try to read between the lines, because it's very hard to do, right? I don't know who fucked up here. It's just rare that like, I agree with you, Jamada, that like it's so rare to have this come out of the LCK, because the implication here is that Diable is a bad boy that they couldn't handle, and they just said, okay, we need to cut it short. maybe Diable was enacting leverage and he wanted out, like he was just wanted out of the team and he was like sabotaging. It's hard to know. Diable, after all, is only an 18-year-old and is a player that probably, like, in terms of, if we just look back at his just LEC, his LCK career, like, it's been like a rocket ship. Obviously, it's like so much wind in your sails. Your ego must be running super high in terms of what you perceive for yourself and what you feel like you deserve. And to go from winning to then losing, that's a whiplash that a lot of players sometimes they don't recover from. Like we saw that with, for example, Casey. We had Vladi, of course, in winter. He was probably the best mid laner in the league, over Caps even. And then coming back to spring, and then we had all of those dramas and all those issues, and recovering and landing from that and finding ways to find good form and high form again is the biggest challenge in league. You have the best players in the world are going to have periods where they play worse, sometimes even bad, but they find form again. That's the main trick, and they do so while maintaining, of course, professionalism. So I'm just curious, as it's like, in terms of who is the fraud, it's so hard to tell. I just think the whole situation is just stinky. It's just very, very stinky. Something is so off to have a player leave. I think that Nongshim obviously is a super big winner. On paper, Diable also wins, because I think Nongshim is better on paper than BFX was, regardless of how they did in winter. I just think the roster is better. And for Diable to now being paired together with Lehens, that's like, for his career, that's like massive. To not have to wait out the year and already jump for it into the next team, and also not be in a position where he needs to extend the contract. He's going to be playing to Nongshim till the end of the year, and then to have that power and to be able to showcase yourself in a new team. For him, he came out like a bandit. He really, really won. So if I had to point to someone just from the fraud angle and take the angle that someone loses here, I think that BFX is going to go to irrelevancy now. I don't see how you recover. Taeyun's not going to do anything. This might have been like the peak of the org, and this was a player that you brought up through your youth and academy systems. So this was your pride. This was your most iconic player. You said it also yourself in of course, this statement of fans expecting to see Diable in the fan meet and then not being able to, and understanding the impact of that, because what is now left of BFX, it's so hard to imagine that they're gonna find any highs again. Maybe Raptor can do something clear, but it's like, we have that team in better form in like D+. It's like,
yep,
Raptor and Clear are just Shiwu and Lucid Light. So. I really, really don't know what BFX is going to do. So I got to call them the frauds here. They squandered the ball, but maybe it was one of those moments, like the only scenario where I could like give them a pass, which is always something that is going to be so delicate to ever get in the open, is if they did this to protect their other players. They did this to protect the workflow and integrity of how they work internally, and that they can't give anyone that much power, and they just drew the line. Maybe that's what happened. But obviously, I think this is one of those things where we'll never know. But it does kind of remind me of the C9 Jojo Pyun situation in many forms, where you just know that wherever Diable goes next, he's going to perform. It was the same with Jojo Pyun, but it seems like the relationship soured so much that there was no recovering. I think the craziest aspect is that it's just mid-season, because Jojo Pyun, at least, at C9, they didn't get to qualify to Worlds, right? So it was a little bit more closure.
Go ahead, Jamada.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, now for me, I want to see how competitive Nongshim can be, because they've had sequences and individual series here and there where it feels like they are kind of somewhat capable of playing the game. And to me, Diable is the kind of firepower where, you mentioned as well, Yamato, laning with someone like Lehens, that can be a big, like, I think in my head, mentally, these two players should go together quite well. So I really feel as though if Nongshim get their shit together, specifically just like through mid jungle, right? Sponge he's a psycho. That fella.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be polite and say he's a psycho and leave it at that. Yeah. I think our reactions to even mentioning Sponge should let you know where we're at with him. But
That's the bottleneck, Mr. Beast would say.
Yeah, that's the bottleneck. Yeah. And so I feel like, to me, a player like Diable can alleviate that bottleneck a bit, right?
Yeah.
Just being present on that lineup, and especially when the top of the table looks so competitive, right? The bounce back from all of these teams kind of in the middle of the pack from Gen.G, DK, and T1. How am I forgetting T1? It makes me think like, hey, can like Nongshim maybe try and sneak a fourth if their form kind of bounces back? And this is the nice thing about some of their schedule. They're starting to play through. They play through like a mix of the weak and the strong teams just back to back. So I feel like there's a lot of like confidence builder series, then like high competitive series. Let's try to touch a ceiling and give these teams who are running for second and first a good run for their money. So I like their strength of schedule too, in combination with this move at the same time.
Yeah, because Nongshim just finished out round one going up against Gen.G, T1, and Hanwha. It was the fucking gauntlet, and they went 0-3, and you know they were who we thought they were. It was pretty brutal. A unique angle, and I think an angle that a lot of people aren't taking, but I was surprised as I was diving into the Korean diaspora, is that Korean fans are kind of blaming Diable for this, not taking responsibility for the fan meet and ruining Taeyun's kind of situation, right? He's the one getting sent down over there, right? That's very Korean style of thinking, right? Because it's
makes sense, yeah.
I was about to say, and that was the first thing I said, right? Like at the end of the day, it is when you're a player, when you're a member of staff, anything, right? Like, you sign a contract, contractually, you must oblige, and if you do not have a good reason to not, fulfill those obligations, then the organization has the right to do whatever the hell they like within the means of that contract. So, if that was the trigger, then at the end of the day, the bottom line is that is on Diable. 100%.
Yeah. So I think the angles for me for fraudulency is Odin's statement. Maybe that is not fraudulent, but there was multiple sources reporting that the DN Supers were the initial place that he was going to go to. So I feel like that is the smokescreen that you have to say. Also, going to what Yamato was saying and what I think most of us here in the West were thinking, on paper, this is an upgrade for Nongshim.
Yep.
But this whole situation didn't come from on paper. And I feel like we're downplaying what Kellen was providing to Diable before. Remember, this is the same bot lane that led the league in 2v2 kills last year. They led the league in 2v2 kills. Fucking Viper was in the league. Ruler was in prime form. Guma was still on T1 with Keria. It was a feat like no other. And then this thing happens. So I'm pumping the brakes a little bit on Nongshim getting the better end of the trade. And for Taeyun going to BNK FearX, it provides some stability when they're already having volatility in the play of the jungler and in your mid lane. And so now I'm kind of interested. Like, I think Diable's a better player, but maybe that stability is what this team needed after just turbulence. And who knows, maybe this makes them a more stable team, but they're a more stable, like 7th place team rather than the second best team in the LCK and the high highs that we had seen from the squad. So let us know what you think. Where do you think the blame and the fraudulency lands in this whole drama? And what do you rate it at home? I think this one is a lot to unpack, because if we take a look at the markets here, not that there was a ton of, BNK FearX believers beforehand, but now not a lot. Nongshim moves up a bit. And also it kind of just starts to level out the playing field a little bit more with KT having lost earlier this week. T1 which surprises me too. We talked about Keria re-signing. Also, less percentage chance of them winning the season here for 2026. So it just feels like everything's kind of flattening out a little bit more with stocks from so many different teams just kind of going down, except Gen.G. Since Gen.G had such a massive market share, and then the KT roller coaster was popping off at the beginning of April, and then it started to slow down again. It has been just a very, very unique LCK season right now. So, Jamada, I ask you, who is your favorite to win the season after now one round of LCK play?
It's the boring answer. It's still Gen.G. Look, for me, at the end of the yes, turbulence has come, and I feel like it's on the way out. Yes, Gen.G don't necessarily look like right now in this frame going into the second round robin, the default number one answer. It always feels, it will just categorically feel wrong to not hedge your faith on this team until they really give you through and through reasons not to. And for me, they haven't given me through and through options not to, or reasons not to. I feel like other teams have provided me with a little bit more reason to potentially believe in them a bit more to bring it to Gen.G in these higher stakes playoffs scenarios later on in the split.
Yamato, what do you think?
I think, I agree that Gen.G would be like the easy answer, but mostly because I think HLE as a team, even though I think that they are better suited for what the meta is for this year right now, their form is better right now, and what I can see them become if everything really lands, I can see a world where the pieces just kind of make sense together. But the main risk with HLE is the high variance in form of Becca, Kumiushi even, and the Light. I think that as HLE is progressing, right, I do think that there is a very, very big buy-in to how Kanavi wants to play the game, and that's beautiful to see. I think HLE is like the most Chinese team we've had in the LCK. In forever. Like, I think we saw hints of that from T1 at times, right, in terms of how trigger happy they were during certain periods. But I really believe in the LPL kind of stereotype of approaching the game right now. I do think that fighting with your jungle and support, invading every camp, pushing, and really, really contesting every crab, every drake, every blue, every gromp, I think this is Kanavi's specialty. And I think the more buy-in that is there, the better it gets. But usually this type of a style gets stopped in its track if your lanes aren't good enough. And right now, Zeka is up there he can compete with BDD and Chovy. And Zeka does that 2 months a year. So, like, is he going to do that for the whole year suddenly? I hope so, because in that case, I can see HLE winning at the end of the season. I think T1 has a little bit too far to go still in terms of the improvements, but HLE would be my kind of weird to call them a dark horse because a lot of lights are shining on them right now.
Table, of course, but
HLE could be like, if I get to see more, like if I get a month or two of this gameplay, I could see HLE winning it all.
You know what? I just want to say one small point before we move on as well. New big patch just come out. I'm really, really curious about how much of an impact it will have on pro play, because I feel like there's going to be some champion cycling with some of the stuff that's been implemented. And I think especially the mid lane, some of the majors at least, because obviously phase rush has been changed, right?
Yeah.
No longer phase rush, now Storm Raider Surge. A lot harder to proc, earlier on specifically. And I think that's going to be a safety net that might remove some mid laners from the pool at the very, very top end. There will be cases where they stay. Like, I think Ryze will stay, right, as an example. I don't think that champion needs phase rush to exist, but obviously it's just another band-aid. And then, we kind of just move from there, because I think whilst the changes overall are not broad, well, they're like broad, but they're not depthy. And that's what I really want to know, is if that's going to change how certain teams want to draft and what champions they prioritize. Because I think there might be some mad scientists out there that pick up on some things here and there that might change the meta.
Well, in the battle of the dark horses, as Yamato like to call it, chasing Gen.G, the favorite, Hanwha and T1 will do battle later tonight. And this is big patch, pre-season 2 patch of 2026. So this is still on the old patch. LCK will start the new patch next week. All right. LCK with the off the rift drama. Last week was pretty straight up. It was a 10 out of 10 week for everyone except me and Umpty. So not a lot of surprises in terms of the gameplay, but definitely surprises with these moves. Keria re-signing and Diable for Taeyun, for Nongshim, and B&K FearX respectively. All right, before we dive into the other big roadshow that happened this week over in the LEC, it's time to remind you about our friends over at Manta Sleep. Now, you hear us talk about it every week. It's because we use it every week. If you're tired of waking up before your alarm because the sun hits your face, this bad boy, the Manta Sleep Pro Mask, blocks out every bit of light so you can actually stay asleep. It has 100% blackout. It blocks out all light, even around the nose and the sides, for complete darkness. As you can see here, the cups there, plus the nose region right here. It is fantastic. It has adjustable eye cups, which fit your face perfectly without any eye pressure. More importantly, made with breathable and cooling material that makes it sweat-resistant fabrics, keeping you cool and comfortable all night long. Plus, this one has the Bluetooth right there. You push the button, connect it to your phone, little baby speakers right there. You can play anything to help you fall asleep, whether it's wave sounds, light music. Maybe you're just,
Limp Bizkit.
Think of like history class, something like that. Fall yourself asleep. It is awesome. And I have one here. I have one at my fiance's place. I would not travel without it. And we love giving you the products that we use here ourselves. And the Manta Sleep Mask Pro has been a huge, huge part of it. So head on over to the website to go check that out. Again, Yamada, tell everyone how much you've been using the Manta Sleep Pro.
If you're a watcher live, look at these dark circles under my eyes. This is years of poor sleep habits, okay? Years. I have not had such good quality sleep since I've been using Manta sleep masks. And the new one that dGon was holding up, incredible. It is phenomenal. I can't recommend it enough. It is honestly incredible. I got one for my partner. She loves it. She's in club ASMR when she goes to sleep. That's her thing. So really, there is a very wide range of things that you can listen to. I'm a video essay / audiobook guy. That's my jam. That gets me to sleep. And hey, even if you've got things like I've got this massive ass afro on my head, still wraps around. Not a problem at all. So don't worry about any of that. It is super adjustable. It is super comfortable. Get yourself one of these masks.
Yeah. Also, the white noise machine available on the site as well. Yamato, you use that as well.
Yeah. I've been using the white noise machine. I tried it out. I'm a light sleeper, like everybody knows that. I sleep everywhere, but at night when I want to go to bed, I like the listening feature on the ones that you just showed, bro. The listening feature, because it's like I grew up, Middle East and that, listen to Al Jazeera, like so it's like I go to bed listening to politics, whatever the fuck is going on in the world, and I realized that's not normal, because my fiance is like, how can you listen to this? It's like, I don't want to hear that people died and there's war and whatever. It's like, oh yeah, all right, I will use these. And then the nice part is nobody hears. I think that's bliss, because sometimes we listen to the same thing, and I like falling asleep to some sweet, sultry sounds of politics.
Of the newsroom, yeah.
That's a blessing. Yeah, that's a blessing.
Yeah. So go check it out. All the different sleeping type of equipment that they have there for you. It's mantasleep.com. Use the code LFN to unlock 10% off your purchase. That's mantasleep.com using the code LFN to unlock 10% off your purchase. Again, can't recommend it enough. Love it. Thank you so much to our friends over at Mantasleep. Go fix your sleep. It's so important. So important. All right. Let's move on up now to the Galaxy Brain Club, where we dive into lots of talk about Western League of Legends dying, vilify Cadril. It's the co-streamer's fault. LCS literally played with no fans in the studio last week, but the LEC showing why they've tightened the belt a little bit to allow the bigger organizations with those fan bases to have a great event. It is the LEC Karmine Corp Road Show. Let's dive into the event itself and some of those big matches. So, Casey puts on the road show. It's a banger again. Loud blue wall there, supporting the teams, supporting the orgs, enjoying the whole event. A couple of big matches that came out of that one. KC versus Na'Vi was a big one here, Jamada, that went the way of KC 2-0. Good match. You had fucking shifters there. They were there to go 0-3 and become eliminated out of MSI competition, joining Heretics and SK as teams that will not be making the trip to dGon. But either way, a solid event. What did you make of the first, LEC, or not the first, but this LEC Road Show here?
I mean, it again proves that road shows are lifeblood for the community, right? Sports as a whole, anyway, not even just esports, especially here in Europe, culturally, very much built on grassroots, very much built on people gathering in one place and spectating a sport that they all enjoy. That is the mutual love of whatever game it is. In this case, obviously, in Paris, it was a phenomenal weekend. KC, I mean, even last year, the roadshow last year was, fantastic, barring some minor tech difficulty. Was it the Spain? No, it was the Spain weekend where they had the power outage, and that was countrywide. But like, even compared to last year, massive step up in terms of everything. Like, even from the broadcast side, super happy to see that the casters were actually at the venue. I think that was a big thing last year, at least for me. As a commentator, I think it's very difficult to get as hype if you're casting over something that you're just simply not present for. So the fact that they were also on site, I think, was a big win for them, and I think also just subsequently a big win for the people at home watching. From the international side, from the main English broadcast side. In terms of the series themselves, however, obviously, mostly left a lot to be desired than not. In my opinion. And I think that just kind of comes down to the fact that the selection of teams that was there was included Fnatic and Shifters. So a little bit unlucky, I think, on that role. And to that end, it does make me look forward to is it in Madrid? I want to say the roadshow at the end of this is Madrid. Because obviously the teams going there are almost all exclusively top 4, top 5. So that'll be fantastic. But this weekend still, nonetheless, was great. And I don't know, it just makes me want to have open circuit in Europe, at least, right? There's been a lot of talk about that broadly lately, just because of how like franchising has been handled and just the health of the league and yada yada yada. Cadril killed the LEC, whatever like dumbass stance or argument you hold in that discourse. Just makes you fall in love with the league and with the game again when you get to actually feel the passion of that many fans in one place again.
Yeah, I was checking to see because, again, Koi got to host the one during LEC Versus and now hosting again in Spain later on. The first one was over in Barcelona, and that was the one that started this whole conversation about LEC in-person viewership and, the event venue not being as filled. But KC, smaller venue, but better atmosphere. Nice little trade-off there, 3,000 capacity over in Paris this time around. Yamato, what did you want to touch on here for the LEC Road Show?
Yeah, I think, considering very likely that the teams are not making a profit on these, I think that it comes from the purest place. I think purest place being that you just know for a fact that both Koi and KC is ran with what with the same energy that actually gave, in my opinion, esports, origins, right? Before it became, commercialized and, I don't know if we can call it commercialized, but, like professionalized. And so forth. Corporatized, maybe is the better way to put it, yeah. And I think that form of energy, whenever it appears, anyone is drawn to it because it's so obvious, right? The passion shines through. The fact that they do a home stand, I think the fact that they can fill it out and the fact that it's improving every time is massive, and it's really nice to see. I do think that I'm with you, Jamada, that eventually we're going to reach a point where probably like the tournaments that are going to be hosted are the ones that are just like outside of the LEC circuit. I think it just kind of makes sense, right? Moving in that direction, having tournaments. If Casey could be an organizer, Koi could be an organizer, and there's a lot of TOs that work with CS and so forth, and maybe that's the future, right? Because it is a bit of a sadness, the fact that this has to be regular split games, because they need to be able to plan ahead. It would be weird if KC hosted and they wouldn't make a finals, for example. That's the type of risk that you can't really take, because that venue would be empty. That would be fucking odd. But the fact that the only reason it is that way is because the LEC doesn't want to overextend that much in terms of how they manage their budgets and how they maintain their money. So it's like this is a nice compromise in between, but it still has some way to go to be perfect. I played to the teams, Casey and Koi, that they want to do this. I also saw that G2 said that they were interested to do it in Germany. I don't think it will be quite the same. I'm sure they could fill out the venue. I don't think it's going to be that G2 centric as Casey centric the Casey event would be. I think it would be a lot more of a mixed bag. I don't think we will see a samurai wall, like I don't think that's gonna happen, But fair play to G2 for throwing their hat in there and saying that they would be down to do it. I think the more of this they can do, the better, because I do think that this is how you create long-lasting fans and also how you create new fans. Because this is the best way to get a first impression. It's like, oh, what are you doing? You watching LEC? All right, let's tune in. Damn, what the hell is this? And it's intriguing in a way that, like, the spectacle is important because you're going to have people that see that for the first time. You're going to create a buzz that makes people talk about it in a very different way, in an uplifting way, rather than the negative way when a finals is in a studio or a match is being played in the studio, which I think that you want to avoid. So for me, the more you can do of this, the better. I just hope, I hope that it's sustainable for the teams, really. That's the big one for me.
And that was what I was about to hit on. I mean, that all sounds great. But the reason why we have the studio is the point that you made at the top, which is a lot of these teams probably not making money off of hosting the event itself, which is the risk. That is the risk in the back and forth. But if you want the league, you need to have the stable thing that's there. So a bit of a give and take. But when we have these moments, always very fun to watch. Jamada, I throw to you, Navi, because their week will end, or their regular season will finish here next week against G2. That's their final regular season game. They currently sit in third place, knowing that G2, Movistar, Koi, and KC all have big games, and Los Gigantes, Giant X, all have big games in that final week as they're playing over in Spain. Do you feel like you've seen enough out of them to make them a contender here, or do you feel like, okay, yeah, they're probably going to slip down behind G2, behind MKoi, they'll be 5th, 6th, along with either Giant X or Fnatic?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that Giant X, G2, and MKOI are all going to be playing each other, there's I think they're mostly secured right now, maybe even in just straight up third. Obviously, like, and I'm saying this even if they lose to G2 this weekend and they go 6-3. I could very easily see it being a case where a lot of those teams at the roadshow, they just end up, beating each other. I could see that circle of suck occurring, and just kind of leading to that 4th, 5th, 6th, kind of just sitting at 5 wins, 4 wins, and squeaking in because the rest of the bottom of the table obviously performed so poorly. So I'm not too stressed about them. I think I've seen enough out of them. The real question is, can they push their ceiling higher? Right? I think that and at a consistent level, because their identity, I think, is relatively set in Riletch champion pool, like being willing and wanting to give him those more out there picks here and there. Mainta has grown into a more flexible player in terms of what he's willing to play over time, instead of kind of just that kind of core 3 of like relatively stable picks of things like Cassante and Ornn and Nar and things like that. He's starting to stretch his legs more and more, which I've liked. And I still feel like Poby is doing fine, right? And so I think just that top side of the map alone, I think is going to bring them very far, just because that is where a lot of to me, either a core strength or a core weaknesses in the rest of the top teams in the league, right? With Vitality, obviously, it's humanoid laning and it's Nako. With MKOI, it's Jojo's strengths as a laner, but then Merwin sometimes having these off games, right? There's a lot of dichotomies and different dynamics going on that I think Na'Vi can definitely look to utilize, leverage, and abuse, or just straight up hold their own against like a team like Vitality that have 2 strong, solid solo laners. So I've seen enough out of them. I think they're probably going to land third, again, just because that strength of schedule is so particular for the teams below them.
Yeah, and again, they already nipped the win off of Movistar Koi, so one of their big opponents already will not have the head-to-head. And so it is the final test here for Na'Vi, very much like what Los Gigantes Giant X had to do last week in week 4 when they played Na'Vi and Vitality. They went 0-2. Will Na'Vi defeat G2 and solidify their spot as a top 3 squad? Because the top 4 teams out of the 6 that go to playoffs start in the upper bracket. It's not, hey, you get a bye and everyone has double elimination. It's, no, only the top 4 teams start in that double elimination. And if Na'Vi is a top 3 team and you got KC, Vitality, and Na'Vi is your top 3, that means there's one spot for Giant X, G2, Movistar Koi. That's weird for G2 and Movistar Koi, I'd say.
Like that lower bracket matchup, if one of those lower bracket matchups in round 1 is going to end up being very, very crazy.
Yeah. Final thoughts here, Yamato, on LEC as we move towards the final 2 weeks.
Bro, it's been crazy watching Fnatic, bro. Oh, bro, that is just rough. I don't know where they go from here. All the other teams in the bottom are making changes. Fnatic, I don't know if they can. It's a very, very peculiar situation they've found themselves in, and with these statements from Sam Matthews, for example, like they talk about, there's talks of academies and so forth, but they're not even running their main team properly. So it's hard to see where the future lies, because SK got they got in slow queue, Swedish national. He seems to be doing fine, even though they are losing against Galleons right now in EWC. That's funny. Team Heretics, I don't know what the hell is going on there, brother. Like that is a complete
It's a long-term
mess.
project. It's a long-term project.
It's a
long-term project
with short-term decision making. Like we are cold. Let's light our walls on fire for heat. Like I don't know what we're doing. It's and then for the top 6, I'm with you. It's like the top 6 is very interesting, but currently, I think the main cutoff, right, is like the GX. We talked about it and we offered up our hair graciously. I don't know why you guys had that crazy ass idea. You guys,
oh yeah, us.
You win
yeah,
one bet and then suddenly you guys have ego like crazy. And then,
Yeah.
you are in a situation where GX, I do think they're going to lose all their games back to back. And I think we're going to end up in a situation where GX and Koi are going to be in the bottom side of the bracket waiting for the other four demons. I do think that the top four is quite established at this point, and I think the G2 is going to crack top four.
All right, boom. There you have it. The Fnatic continued implosion and the G2 explosion as they have 4 more games in the final 2 weeks to make it to the top 4. Let us know what you think your top 4 will be in the LEC in the comments below. Who's getting the buys and which teams are on the outside looking in? And again, still the smallest, the tiniest glimmer of hope here for Fnatic to make it into the playoffs, but highly unlikely. So who do you think will be the ones on the outside looking in between G2? I guess it could be multiple teams, right? Even though KC's 6-0, they could go 0-3, and then all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of teams at 6-3. Never mind. Just let us know who you think the top 4 will be. And while you're there, like and subscribe here at Last Free Nation. Okay. I just want to take a second here to remind our friends here at Last Free Nation who's followed along with us for a while that this Thursday we are launching the LFN Herald, our new weekly newsletter, and it's free. It's the fastest way to catch up on everything happening on esports across the network, plus our deep dives in film, TV, and in gaming. One email every Thursday. Subscribe at herald.lastfreenation.com before the first issue drops. You can also find the link in the YouTube description and pinned comment below. I'm not one for a ton of different newsletters. I get about 2, but this is one that I've already signed up for. And if you follow along with us for this whole journey, as one of the original members of Last Free Nation, it has been a lot of fun to see us grow, see the stories about expansion into other titles, other games, nerd culture. It's been a lot of fun. Please join us in our next step in Last Free Nation by subscribing to the LFN Herald. That is herald.lastfreenation.com, and join us. Thanks again for all of you that have supported us throughout the years. All right. As we move forward here, a couple more topics that we're going to hit on across the LoL ecosystem. But before we do, time to remind you about our friends over at Raycon. Now, this message is sponsored by Raycon. With Mother's Day coming up, it's a great time to find a gift that actually fits into your mom's everyday life. Whether she's going for a morning walk, running errands, or talking on the phone, Raycon's essential open earbuds are a great option. Because they're open ear, she can listen to music or podcasts while still hearing what's around her. The sound stays clear and balanced without feeling closed off from her surroundings, keeping her safe and aware. It's a very thoughtful Mother's Day gift. And honestly, it's also a great pickup for yourself if you want a pair as well. And right now you can grab them for 15% off. Now, regular earbuds block everything out. You can't hear someone calling your name, a car honking, anything like that. But these Raycons just sit outside your ear canal so you can get a really clear sound, but actually hear what's happening around you as well. The awareness is perfect for tackling your fitness resolutions safely and smartly. They are really light and the ear hook parts rotate so they actually stay in. You can wear them on the gym, on walks, and doing all stuff around the house, and they won't fall out and get uncomfortable like a bunch of other brands. Plus, Raycon has over 3 million customers, and the sound quality is just as good as they were compared to more expensive brands, and they're half the price because they're not putting all that extra retail markup stuff. And if you don't like them, you can get a 30-day guarantee. I use my Raycons basically every day on the way over to the LCK, on the bus, on the train, walking around. There's a lot happening here in Korea, and having my Raycons has helped a ton. So make sure to go check them out. They have a ton of other great features like multi-point connectivity where you can connect to multiple devices at once and switch seamlessly without any hassle. Plus, The quick charge function is awesome. 8 hours of playtime and 36 hours of battery with charging the case. And, again, you only have to charge them like once a week. So make sure to check those out and go celebrate the moms in your life by heading on over to buyraycon.com/powerspikeopen to get 15% off the Essential Open earbuds. That's buyraycon.com/powerspikeopen to get 15% off of the Essential Open earbuds. Thanks to our friends over at Raycon for sponsoring, and we love giving you products that we use ourselves. Raycon, again, another homie of the show. Speaking of homies, I have a couple homies across the League of Legends ecosystem that I've met through being a host, being a content creator, but rarely have I met someone outside of that space that got into it. And that is my boy, Darkwings. Now, Isaac Cho, Darkwings, a North American mid laner who was a 100 Thieves Next prodigy who got thrown away when that project got scrapped by 100 Thieves, then bounced around in the collegiate scene, was playing on a bunch of amateur teams, got his chance with Disguise, and we're like, oh, that's a good story. Then is pulled onto this Sentinels roster with 4 Koreans. He and the rest of Sentinels, they beat Cloud9, they beat Lion, they beat FlyQuest, they beat the whole LCS to become the first team to qualify to the Esports World Cup League of Legends tournament, other than Gen.G, who have the automatic qualification. It is Golden Glue's first title as a coach as well. It is just such a good story, and that is where we go for Keeper Kick. As the squad that qualified for EWC across all those different teams, do they now have a chance to make it to MSI? Will they qualify to MSI? That is this week's Keeper Kick. Sentinels qualifying for EWC and their future. Let's get into it. So Huhi and Rahel turning back the clock. Impact has been under fire a lot for their matches, but he's been doing well enough. And then Hero Hambach, the bro product, over for Sentinels. Them alongside Darkwings qualify for EWC. So Yamato, I start with you because you've been on the train for our boy Dom, getting the job done. LCS, he went back to be more hands-on to prevent the breakdowns that have been happening with Cloud9. But now Sentinels, 1-3 Sentinels, just won their ticket to EWC. Do you think that now Sentinels have an opportunity to make it to MSI and being one of the top 2 teams?
For answer, 2 things. First, LCS should hire you. I started caring about Darkwings based off of your monologue about him more than I ever have, bro. For me, it was just, why is this guy in all caps? Just get him off my screen. And they should hire you to write the narratives because, damn, suddenly I care about this dude. I want him to succeed. Second, when you did the ad read and you started, it fits into your mom's and then pause into purse. I was like, yeah, that's a crazy sentence. But Raycon earbuds, they would fit anywhere, probably. And finally, coming to the question. I just had to get that off my chest because I started giggling during ad read. I needed to.
I was locked in, man. I was locked in. I didn't even notice.
Because you have this cadence, da-da-da, and then mom's, purse, jacket pocket, pants. Anyhow. To answer your question, I watched some of these EWC games, and honestly, I don't know what the hell. Because it's almost like a reflection of what's going on in scrims, right? Yeah. It's like we saw, I've heard stories from C9 about their ending scrims and how, they're surprised that they are undefeated right now based on their form in scrims. And I think it was definitely a reflection of that. I feel like Sentinels is the ultimate, in terms of how low of a floor some of these teams could have. I feel like across the board in the LCS, you can have players have really, really bad games. Yeah. If I think of some of the players in Lions, I think of Dokla, I think of Saint. Their worst game is ugly. Same thing for C9. And I think when we looked at this tournament, I did feel like we saw a very, very clear version of that. And C9 They were playing the EWC qualifier, playing shit like Caitlyn and whatever the hell. And I'm thinking, C9, bro, take a step back, brother. And then when they played the actual LCS matches, they did take a step back and picked some easy buttons champs where it's all about just Thanatos, being set up for success. So I do think that the actual intensity behind the perceived top 2 in the LCS, I don't think that they took it as seriously as some of the other teams did. And I think this is something we see across the board when it comes to the EWC qualifiers. The ones for Korea starting next week, I believe, right? In 4 days. So we're going to see maybe similarities there, maybe no, because BOG, for example, lost the EWC qualifiers against teams that are worse than them, right? I do think there's an element to it. The LEC currently it's ongoing as well in terms of course the qualifiers, but no big news or big hits there, like favorites won, and there's nothing crazy going on there. To then come back to the question, will Sentinels suddenly make it to MSI? I doubt it. I don't think they have it in them. I think that the way they won these games was because they were stacking dragons and the enemy team threw, especially FlyQuest. They had really good game-winning positions, but they just couldn't keep it in their pants. I don't know what the hell was going on. They were just, double beaming it. It was all over the floor. Like you need to chill. There was no aim, no goal. I don't know what the hell FlyQuest was doing. Fair play to Sentinels. They took a chance that nobody else did. And they did it in a good fashion, but I don't think it's going to translate super well. But I do think it's a big confidence booster, which is massive. I think that one, like winning, feels fucking good. And I do think that Sentinels and Golden Glue and the squad, with all the camera reactions we saw and whatever the hell, they needed some relief, So God bless them. But I don't think they're gonna crack Lions or of course C9 to make it to MSI.
I very much like the way that you've contextualized the tournament for a team like Cloud9 there, just because it was FlyQuest and Sentinels that were on the upper side of the bracket, not Lion, not Cloud9, not Team Liquid. Those two teams being Sentinels did the upper bracket run. They did not lose a series in this double bracket qualification tournament. Cloud9 dropping to Sentinels and then dropping to Team Liquid after beating Dignitas. So they went 2 losses in a row. And then Team Liquid losing to FlyQuest after Sentinels beat FlyQuest. It was a very weird tournament, but another, tournament nonetheless that was won. And, maybe you can rally something around that. Jamada, what did you make of this? And is there a route, but would you keep or kick, and I guess boot out either Lion, Cloud9 or Team Liquid?
Nah. I think they should just be happy that they get to go to an international this year, and that it's through this qualifier, because it's funny. I had the privilege of doing the final 2 series actually on the broadcast, and so I got to interview Hui and spoke with him for a little bit, and so I don't know if they really have what it takes to translate what happened in their own series from their perspective in terms of their level of play to stage games, in terms of just upping the floor a bit, because I think they are, I don't want to say unfortunate, but it's important to remember the context of, whilst they are 1-3 in the LCS, all of their series have gone to 3 games.
Yep.
These series have been close.
One of them they're supposed to win. I forgot which one it was. The one that they threw the massive lead.
Yeah. So it's not, I want to say it was their second series versus not their second series, but their series versus TL last weekend, I think.
Oh yeah.
Where it was
no, it was FlyQuest. Was it the FlyQuest one?
No, the FlyQuest one was the one they won. It could be C9, I think it was C9, because I remember feeling like C9 should have lost that series. So I'm going to go ahead and say it was the C9 series.
No, it was DSG. It was DSG.
Fair enough. DSG. We all have bad memory. We're getting old. So that to me is really what I want to see, is a leveling up of the floor. I don't really so much care about their ceiling in this weird way, because I feel like the rest of NA, their play is so inconsistent that I think the strength to being a good team in the LCS right now is just having a bloody decent floor. And then if you can establish that, then yes, you can actually build on things. I think like the Lion is a good case study of this, like inside of their playoff run, right? They look sketchy for a majority of the playoffs, but they ramped a little bit over the course of the series that they got to play. And then in playoffs, after I think their first series in the lower bracket was Fly off the top of my head, I want to say. Beyond that, it was series by series. The prep was obviously fantastic, but their level of play, not only was the floor being elevated, but of course their ceiling was getting higher too at the same time. And I feel like Sentinels have individuals that can touch some pretty high ceilings in the context of the LCS, specifically in Rahel. And I'm gonna make you very happy when I say this. I also think Harmbuck. I think Harmbuck is the kind of guy that can actually. I think he's got a little bit more in him in terms of just being the jungler that understands when the game needs to be stable, comically. And I know I'm saying this about Harmbuck. Stick with me. Because he understands when the game needs to be volatile. But I think what I saw in these qualifier games was a Harmbuck that also understands when the game can be slow and can be tempered. And I hope that is a mindset that is brought forward into the LCS games. Because I think they're capable of going far. I just don't think they're capable of coming first. That's where I draw the line. I could easily see them finishing third, but topping all of the other teams off, I struggle to see it happen.
Yeah. Just a feel-good story, and I wanted to slide in some Sentinels in there because just to have I actually met Darkwings at a video game and anime convention. Like, that's where we met. And he's like, "Oh, I play League. I've seen your show." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Good luck, man." And then, like, we stayed in touch, and then I was like, "Oh shit, you're in LA. Oh shit, you're over at, I think, St. Louis University." And then they won collegiate, and he just kept progressing. And the whole narrative of, NA mids, and then APA gets his chance, and he has that one trick moniker, and then it's Palafox a little bit. There just weren't many opportunities for guys to have the come up there, and for him to find success like that from how he originally met was just a feel good story. Will they probably knock off one of those three teams? Unlikely for MSI, but they've booked their ticket to EWC. And they should feel proud of it. There's a lot of guys on that roster where you can pick a story and it's great, whether it's Hambach, going from last place with the Bros and now finding success there, who he again turning back Father Time alongside Impact, who he just a couple of years removed from turning doubters into believers with Golden Guardians and reviving Stixay's career and going to MSI as well, after beating FlyQuest back in 2023. Man, encyclopedia right here. I'm on top of it today. It was just a feel-good story. So if you followed along with that, or you needed a team to follow in LCS other than one of your main teams, give Darkwings a follow. That I really like this squad, and it feels good for someone like Golden Glue, who's been grinding away at it for a long time, to get a small tournament win like that. Feels good. All right. Finally, like to do a little callback and make sure we're keeping ourselves in our P's and Q's. We gave you that certified banger of the week last week. It was NIP versus Top Esports over in the LPL. Remember, NIP had come fresh off of the victory. Not a 2-1, a 2-0 victory. Not over just some squad, against BLG, and we were like, "Oh shit, what is NIP good?" And the answer is maybe. Like, maybe they're good. That was a fun series. It was a 2-0 victory for the side of Top Esports. However, didn't quite go the way for NIP. So let's dive into that real quick here. Jamada, Top Esports, they get the victory. 2 matches that could have gone either way, though.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those series where you look at it, it's 2-0, and you think, Top Top Esports have been doing well, they must have kicked their heads in and stomped them. Just not the case, like at all. Actually, as a matter of fact, this was a series that was packed with action, and it was maybe one of the more, I don't want to say one of the most fun series of the split, but I think the fact that NIP actually kind of delivered on threatening Top Esports, because I think we now have collectively come to the agreement that Top Esports are a legitimate team for the time being. The question, of course, is, well, what about NIP? Because, in terms of name power, it leaves a little bit to be desired. And I think the fact that, particularly Guan is who I want to highlight, I think for his first game, after dealing with the I don't want to call it the cheese invade, but Nocturne just has so many stats at level 1. It's so hard to deal with getting walked in on if you're trying to do your red or your chickens, and then getting forced out of your entire red side quadrant, and then not being able to farm your blue side quadrant either on a map split. To be able to still look as active as he did in that circumstance, I think is very, very, very commendable. And to even, they were 25 minutes into the game, they'd won their Drake fights. They'd secured their Drakes. A lot of that came off of him. So I really want to give him credit, because that was a lot of where my focus was coming into this series, in terms of, hey, this will be a series that is dictated by jungle, and then the kind of secondary to that would be how they elected to use NIP. This is Care in his picks inside of that series to try and facilitate him. And I feel like, hey, that was a pretty good read, because second game they gave him bloody Malzahar, and they were like, yo, like, you're gonna be the guy that is helping set up Guan. And so I was very happy with what I saw out of NIP, despite getting 2-0'd. Overall, was the gameplay like the highest quality out of them? No, but I think you considering the cards that they were dealt inside of the game, and the drafts that they decided to work with, I feel like even though when you're a player, when you're a competitor, you lose a series, you'll walk away, you'll be upset. I think they should be pretty happy with that. And I didn't even touch on the Lee Sin or the Anivia top that we got in game 2 either, which was also its own little bit of a trip.
Yeah. Yamato, you called this out as your match of the week last week. What did you make of the series?
On my end, I'm with you. I do think that NIP was in very good, very, very good positions to win. Like I was, it was like the Tian Drake steal in the second game. That was mental, followed up by like Jackie Love just peppering. I like, for me, I'm just happy to see Jackie Love perform. Bro. I thought he was good in this series. I thought like Top Esports had to swing their mechanical way to actually like qualify into the games. I do think that on the team side and how like kind of nips at the table, they were the ones with a bigger reach. They could go and grab the chicken, they could grab the peas and the potatoes. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy. I'm hungry.
I see.
I'm very, very hungry. I do think that NIP threw. I think the identity is clear, right? I'm with you, with the Malzahar, like I don't want to say it now because Nymera said we underestimate Care, but it's like me and Jamada, we agree what Care is. He's happy to be there. That's Vikla's cousin right there, bro.
Wow.
That's fucked up. That's fucked up.
What?
For who?
Why?
For Care or for Vikla? That's a good point. I'm making a good point, Jamada.
Not American. I plead the fifth, though. Yeah.
Fucked up for both, and that's why it makes sense. Anyhow, it's just Top Esports in terms of like if anything, their following series, right, that they lost was the biggest surprise. But I do think that this kind of foreshadowed it. This series kind of foreshadowed it in the sense that Top Esports didn't have that sharpness, no crispness around their early game, and if they just want to win series by swinging their mechanical ways, like we have mechanical players ohne Ende, as you say in German. We have them, endlessly in the LPL. So to rely on that is a very dangerous string. But I do think that this series kind of told us where the form of Top Esports is right now in terms of how they play their early to mid game macro. And I do think that that's a department that Top Esports need to kind of shore up, because Something has always been true about the LPL that yeah, go ahead. Please.
I was gonna say, like, your point is just so correct because it was immediately exposed by Weibo the series after, right?
Okay,
like,
they lost to Weibo.
Weibo, bro. Like, this iteration of Weibo stinks. I can't stress it enough. But they will always, this is the thing, it doesn't matter. Since 2023, whatever higher up went to some mountain in some place in a very secluded area of the world to sacrifice, you know, like a goat foot and like maybe some kids and who knows what, just straight up juju. Ever since the final, the world finals qual in 2023, like we're still getting the remnants of that magic in these like just random one-off series at times, and this is one of them, right? Like Weibo, even in their kind of decrepit form, they will check a team that is well above their weight, and hopefully that is a wake-up call for top esports, because, you know, again, like you look at them and you think, well, they play.
But Jamal, I let you
AL.
interrupt because it was supposed to be a short point. What's happening?
Oh, sorry. Hey, sorry. Go. Hey, my fault. No, take the mic back. No, King, take my lead. Take the mic back. Go on.
All I want to say is, yeah, like the LPL keeps you honest, and it's like,
yeah,
top esports. We went from going like LPL is like, oh, top esports clearly the second best, and then now after losing to Weibo, is like, where do we even put them? it's very, very tricky and hard. I do think the top esports macro wise, early to mid game, they showcased better before. Why not now again? And I do think that NIP. I worry about NIP as like, I think that they've reached their ceiling. I just don't believe that they're gonna do more. This is the WE of the previous year, where like, ooh, look how cool they are. They are doing some upset wins, but you know, when things get serious, things get tough. I think that in the BO5s and playoffs, they're just gonna be lost. I doubt that they're gonna upset anybody really.
Well, that leads us to, I guess, this point here, because we saw what EWC qualifiers were able to do for Sentinels, and just kind of a surprise team there. You're saying, where do we put top esports? For EWC qualifiers, they're already out. It just is JDG, AL, Weibo, and BLG. The big dogs are in the mix with JDG and AL fighting for that automatic qualification spot. The loser of that will then face the winner of Weibo versus BLG for the spot, the second spot that you can get other than winning the split. So as we take a look at what Polymarket says, it's a 70% likelihood that AL makes it and 66% likelihood that BLG makes it, with then 56% to JDG and only 11% over there to Weibo. 2 spots, 4 teams. Who you got here, Jamada?
Yeah, I mean, BLG, simple. I'm actually kind of surprised that they're slotted second here in terms of favorites. Like, it's BLG. Like that's all I really have to say. Unless they get a little bit too freaky with the offline, the offline nature, or sorry, the online nature of it. A hard horse to really think against, right? So I'll always, right now, that's where I'm leaning, especially like no top esports in there. I think JDG, like I've said, they can ride the mechanical roller coaster. That was the framing that we used last week. But to me, it's BLG. It's been in form. It's Knight just staying dominant, and I see that just occurring no matter what, even in these online settings.
Sure. Again, BLG knocked down to the lower side of the bracket against JDG early in the qualifications. They beat IG to move on to face Weibo, and then we'll fight the winner of JDG AL. Yamato, who you got here?
I do think it's important to note, right, that BLG is in the lower bracket. They lost to JDG. So already from that standpoint, right, JDG and AL, they have the upper bracket match. They play against each other. One team is going to be out. I do think that BLG, stylistically, I think they can only lose to JDG out of AL and JDG. So I think the hope is if you want to make a clean prediction, I do think that JDG probably beats AL, and I think AL loses to BLG, and I think JDG and AL just going to make it through. But EWC qualifier is like, this is one of those things that BLG don't need to worry about too much. And with how hectic the LPL schedule is, you can be caught on a on a rough day, and what the market says might not matter at all. But I do think BLG is going to smoke Weibo Gaming, and they're going to have a chance to qualify in the BO5. And I think the fact that it's a BO5 really makes you want to think that you lean heavier into the favorite, because BO5s are just a lot more honest. 2-1 possible, winning 3. BLG can then have a chance to wake up mid-series, and that's scary. They can have a shit game 1, shit game 2, and they can lock in. And when these guys are locked in, then they aim for the head.
Again, just an exciting time right now, I think, in Eastern League of Legends, with LCK being not as clear as Gen.G than everybody else. And then over there in the LPL, 5 solid teams in JDG, AL, Weibo, BLG, and Top Esports. And that's why we were kind of excited about NIP possibly breaking into that. But just really fun right now. Plus, as Jamada brought up in the last segment, new wide, maybe not deep, but wide patch coming out in the next coming week. So a great time for League of Legends. Yeah, super excited for all of it. All right, those were most of the big stories, if not all of the big stories. I think there's one more. I don't want to touch on it too much. If you guys want to touch on it, you could say what you want to say, but you know where I'm going, Jamada? There was a certain mid laner for a certain LPL team who has gotten himself embroiled in some drama. Rookie.
Let's leave it alone. Let's leave it alone.
Right.
Let's leave it alone.
Don't know if we're gonna see Rookie anytime soon. Had some girlfriend stuff and stories not quite lining up, and reputation is a lot when it comes to Eastern League of Legends, which is kind of why the Diable thing has 2 sides to it. Same thing with the Ruler thing, has 2 sides to it, the way that we would see it. We're like, Ruler's a great player, Diable's a great player. On paper, makes sense. They did something, and now they're, they'll get punished, and then we'll move on. But it doesn't necessarily work that way all the time here in the East, and Rookie is the same thing. So we'll just have to see what happens with IG in the future, as won't be seeing a lot of him. We'll see a lot more of our boy Renard. And most recently signed Nia was signed up from the Academy roster. So lots of options here for IG moving forward. Everyone, again, thank you so much for watching here on Last Free Nation, here on Power Spike. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Check out the Herald coming your way soon. Get it in that inbox and be surprised with the content that we have, right? It's okay. You have multiple different likes and hobbies. We got you covered here on LFN. And if we don't have you covered yet, let us know in the comments below what you want to see from us. We really appreciate it. For those of you that have set sail with us now for several years, and we look forward to bringing you the best in gaming. On behalf of everyone here, thank you so much for watching. Take a second to pray for or send good vibes, pray if you will, for Jamada, our brother, having some family health issues. Myself as well. My mother-in-law had emergency surgery on Saturday with some health issues. And while you're at it, send good vibes to Yamato, because he's fucking brilliant. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.